Because without the glory, there's no life. This is what we fight for. The quality of your life has nothing to do with what you have. Everything you have is a two. And if you have more, it means your responsibility is more. This is Christianity. Christianity is the life of glory. There are 8 articles of the glory. I will show us quickly. And then we'll begin to live. When I show us the 8 articles of the glory, then I will show us 3 things that matters in time. So when you pray for a job, don't look for big salary. When God sends you to a job, go there as an ambassador. Else, everything you did there is a waste. This building looks beautiful, but the value is not in the shape. The value of this building is in the number of souls that accepted Jesus on this altar. Because this building will not appear in heaven, but the souls will appear in Zion. I thought spiritual activities are even important until I realized that the glory is what defines even the value of what we do. Because you can cast out devils and you show up and Jesus say, away from me, you walk out of iniquity. I know you not. That's why I told you that as beautiful as gift. You know, we are preachers. You can come here. I know people who preach. And from that crusade, they go home with a fine girl. I've met them. I know people who gave word of knowledge to sisters and they ended up in a hotel. Because they have a gift, but they don't know the glory. So even while they carried that gift, it was a tool for satisfying their appetite. They are creatures of time. They are ruled by flesh. They don't know what life is about. Before you celebrate your birthday and you count how old you are, find out how much of God you have trapped. That's what you celebrate, not time. Time has no value in Zion. When you go to eternity, time is withdrawn. Moses ascended Sinai and he was there for 40 years, 40 days. He didn't know. When Moses came down, he told a story that lasted from the beginning of time to the end. Moses saw the beginning and he said everything that God did in Genesis chapter 1. And when Moses was about to depart in in Deuteronomy 34, he said, I saw the Holy One descending from Mount Paran with 10,000 of his saints. That is the battle of Armageddon. So in 40 days, because Moses entered Zion, he saw beginning to end. More than 10 million years was seen in 40 days because that realm has no time. So when we live as creatures of time, what we have done is that we have wasted before we entered there. Christianity is the business of glory. And glory is the civilization of heaven. Yeah. You know, Apostle Roma is coming. I don't need to charge. After 3 days, you will change. I'm telling you, your motivations and appetites will change. You know, I told you when I went to mommy's meeting, that time we were in SS3. We made us shadow prefects in SS2. So we waited for it for 5 years. So that period, they wash your uniform. So when we wake up, they have ironed it, we dress, and then we are going to school. Suddenly she came, and when she said some of the things she said, she preached about Jehoshaphat. Believe in the Lord your God, so shall you be established. Believe in his prophet, you shall prosper. And he showed us how 3 nations were destroyed because somebody entered heaven. And we left there, we forgot that we were prefects. We began to pursue God. There was another hunger that was born in our spirits. Because somebody that knows Zion is talking. You know, they sent people to arrest Jesus. When they came, they said, no man spake. No man ever spake like that man. He was talking from eternity. So you don't hear him in your head, you hear him in your heart. You believe, you don't know what you heard. You may carry your note and you are stranded, you didn't write anything, but when you go home, you can't sleep again. And then you wake up by 12, you are speaking in tongues. Taba, Shakata, Burua, Kida. And suddenly that guy that you are already gisting with, he now calls you, appetite have died. Appetite have died. That is when life begins. If that thing has not happened, you are a creature of time. The Bible says a man in honor that knoweth not is like the beast of the field that perishes. The difference between you and a goat is that you are a creature of eternity. So your reference is in Zion, not in time. 8 articles of the glory. The first is that God is spirit. You know, the word glory is the word kabod in the Hebrew. This is doxa life, so we don't need definition or terms. You know it. And the word glory is the word doxa in Greek. What it means is simply, it was coined from the word statue. You know what a statue is? These things they mold. So it can stand like this under the sun, it will remain like this. It will stand like this under the rain, it will remain like this. Put it inside fire, it will remain like this. It can't change. So the word glory is actually the full essence of a being. The substance that defines the reality of a being. It's unchanging. So if you say this is the glory of God, it means this is what God is any day, any time. So when we speak about the weight of glory, we are talking about the measure of God that rests upon a man. But if you don't know the articles of the glory, you may think it's, I fell down, oh. No, you will stand up and go back. God have not rested. When God rests, you can stand up like this. And then when they give you the same star lager beer that you drink, it will become bitter. What has happened is that you have been exchanged from within. You carry the nature of the serpent, but the nature of God has entered. So Paul said in 1 Corinthians 15, 48 and 49, that the same way we bore the image of the earthly, we must bear the image of the heavenly. What Paul was saying is that we must exchange mortality and wear immortality. But what are the articles of immortality? The first is spirit. What it means is that God is a spirit. So his realities begins from the spirit. If you want to define the essence of God, you can't take reference from material or corporal reality. The essence of God's reality flows from the spirit. So if you look at a man's life and his reference is not in the spirit, he doesn't carry glory. He can act it and call his name Jesus. You know, in Mexico, there are people that bear Jesus. It doesn't mean they carry glory. You want to see a man that is full of glory, he defines and draws the reference of his life from spirit, the realm of God. This was the life that Jesus mirrored as the pattern man. In Isaiah chapter 11 from verse 2, the Bible said the spirit, it began to show us the governmental dimension of the Spirit of God. A man who carries glory, who lives from the Spirit, there are 7 tributaries that his life expresses. He said the Spirit of the Lord shall be upon him. What it means is that any man who is ruled from the Spirit realm is under the government of the Lord. You may have seen a fair lady you want to marry, but the government comes and says, this is your wife. What happens now is that you sacrifice your emotion because you are of the nobles. The nobles don't marry because of love. They marry for kingdom. I was supposed to be a naval officer by now. But when God came, he said, that is not in your curriculum in Zion. So because of the Lord, it was hard. But you know, when you go to Zion, Jesus said it is hard to kick against the pricks. When you go to Zion, they will check what God wrote before time began. He said, before you were born, I knew you. I ordained you to be a prophet. So if you come to time and you do anything apart from being a prophet, you didn't appear in the radar of Zion. Did you read the life of Moses? For 40 years, they didn't write anything about him. Because living in the palace was not part of his destiny. The angels came the day he was born, but there was nothing written. Because the angel will only write on earth what was written about you before time began. Because your life on earth is a witness of the counsel of God, the will of God, the purposes of God. So you can be 70 years old, but in the slate of eternity, nothing has been written. But the moment Moses wanted to leave Egypt, he said when he was come of age, suddenly the story began. The angels began to write. Because when we check the lexicon of Zion, this is what was written. And everything Moses did, they wrote it. Everything. Because now he was journeying by a light that was flowing from the Lord. Did you not see the life of Jesus? That it might be fulfilled, which was spoken by Isaiah the prophet. the land of Zebulun, the land of Naphtali, by the way of the sea, beyond Jordan, Galilee of the Gentile. The people that sat in darkness have seen a great light. Zebulun was not the most pleasant place to live. If you want to live, you can choose Judah, because Judah has a royal heritage. But what was written in prophecy is that he will be in the land of Zebulun. So Jesus did not move until he knew what the Spirit of the Lord was piping from Zion. That's the life of the pattern man. I know there is pressure, and I know you want to marry, but have you seen what the Lord is saying? So you now see the guy store, his chest is like this. And when you went to sleep, you saw 3 dreams in one night. The Spirit of the Lord. When a man lives from the spirit realm, he's a man of government. He's ruled by government. This is what Adam did not know. He was in the garden. He comes. He sees lion. He said, this is lion. He said, yes, that's the name. He comes. He said, this is spider. They said, that's the name. He didn't know that the ability to see into the spirit realm was not just a gift. It was a witness against him that he has no life apart from what comes from the spirit. And the day he violated what was flowing from the spirit, he was ostracized from Eden. You carry the weight of glory if you live your life according to the dictates of the spirit. So the first dimension is the Spirit of the Lord. Jesus never wanted to die for you and I. He said, it's not my will, but thine. So life for Jesus was submitting under the government of the Spirit. How many decisions have you taken in your life that God is not aware? When you are already far, then you come and gist God. Yes, Lord, you know I'm going to Lagos tomorrow. Protect me, protect me. Oh, imini Okpano Gimboma. That's who you are. That's who you are. Oh, imini Okpano Gimboma. That's who you are. That's who you are. That's who you are. I was in Owerri. Hey. The power of God was strong. More than 300 people were under the power. I just prayed the prayer. I said, Lord, heal the sick now. And more than 60 people were healed instantly. We took deafness. There were more than 12. So the next day I came. I said, this night is power. I have seen power. So I said, no, power must continue. When I came, he said, teach. As I finished teaching, he said, go. My body was vibrating like this. But I know if I do that, I am a worker of iniquity. If you live from the Spirit, you must stay under government. So in life, you are not permitted to do what you can. You are permitted to do what you should. And that's where grace will be supplied. It's a statement of glory. But most times, we only live our lives doing what we can, not what we should. We don't live from the Spirit. The first article of the glory is life from the Spirit. And one of the tributaries is the Spirit of the Lord. The second tributary is the Spirit of wisdom. It's not given to man that walketh to order his steps. So even when the whole idea looks correct, there's a way that seemeth right unto a man. The end thereof is death. Death not necessarily because your life will end, but death because you'll be separated from God. There will be no witness for it in Zion. And if you know that, you can't step out until God speaks. The hardest thing to do is to live. Many people are not aware. Every step we should take was already written before we were born. The hardest thing to do is to live. But earthly creatures think life is breath. They don't know that life is actually the statement of the will of God.